When you reach 70, you start to see life differently. You have been through the ups and downs, the wins and the losses. You have seen friends go, family change, and the world move at a pace that feels faster than ever. But there is one mistake I have seen too many people make after 70, and it is the worst decision you can ever make at this stage of life. I have watched people regret it deeply, and I do not want you to be one of them. If you are not careful, you will wake up one day and wonder where your joy, energy, and purpose went. I have met many people over the years who, once they crossed 70, decided that their best days were behind them. They started to believe that their purpose had faded, that they were now just waiting for time to pass. They withdrew from life, stopped learning new things, stopped engaging with the world, and let their bodies and minds slow down. They told themselves they were too old to change, too old to start something new, too old to make a difference. That decision right there, the choice to stop actively living, is the worst mistake you can make after 70. I have seen it happen up close. A close friend of mine, a man who once had a sharp mind and a lively spirit, retired at 72 and decided that was it. He had worked hard his whole life, so he told himself he had earned the right to sit back and do nothing. At first, it seemed fine. He watched television, took naps, and kept things simple. But over time, something changed. His energy dropped. His enthusiasm for life faded. Conversations became dull. His body weakened. By 75, he was struggling with depression. By 78, he could barely move without pain. He told me once, with tears in his eyes, that he wished he had not given up on living when he did. He realized too late that life is not about age. It is about engagement, purpose, and staying connected to what makes you feel alive. I have lived long enough to know that the people who keep thriving into their 80s and beyond are the ones who refuse to sit back and let life pass them by. They keep learning. They keep moving. They keep building relationships. They find ways to contribute. I knew a woman who started painting at 73 and by 80 was selling her art. Another man I met took up gardening at 76 and said it gave him a new reason to wake up every morning. A neighbor of mine, at 80, started volunteering at a local school, reading to children. He told me he had not felt that kind of joy in decades. The body and mind work like a fire. If you stop adding wood, the flame dies out. But if you keep feeding it, even just a little at a time, it keeps burning. This is not just about hobbies. It is about staying engaged with the world. It is about resisting the urge to fade away. The moment you tell yourself that you are too old to try, to learn, to contribute, you start slipping away from life. I know what some people will say. They will say that after 70, the body hurts. That it is not as easy to move. That the memory is not as sharp. That is true. But it is also true that the body and mind respond to how we treat them. A body that is used will stay stronger than one that is left to weaken. A mind that is challenged will stay sharper than one that is ignored. I have met 90-year-olds who are more active than people in their 60s simply because they refuse to slow down. I am not saying you have to climb mountains or run marathons. But you do need to keep moving. Walk every day. Stretch. Do something that keeps your body in motion. It does not matter if it is slow. What matters is that you do not stop. And just as important as moving your body is moving your mind. Read books. Write letters. Learn a new skill. Engage in conversations that make you think. Stay curious. Ask questions. Challenge yourself. The mind is like a muscle. If you do not use it, it weakens. Beyond the body and mind, the heart needs attention too. Loneliness is one of the greatest dangers after 70. Too many people isolate themselves. They think they do not want to bother anyone or that no one cares. But I have seen time and time again that the people who stay socially connected live longer and happier lives. Call an old friend. Join a group. Spend time with younger people. Volunteer. Do something that keeps you connected to the world around you. The mistake is thinking that no one needs you anymore. There's always someone who does. One of the biggest regrets I have heard from older people is that they spent their later years waiting instead of living. They waited for visits. They waited for something to change. They waited for motivation. But waiting is the fastest way to lose time. The truth is, you have to create the life you want, even at 70, 80, or 90. You have to decide every morning that you are going to engage with the day, no matter how small the action may seem. I once met a man who took up playing the piano at 82. He told me he had always wanted to learn but thought it was too late. Then one day, he asked himself, if not now, then when? By 85, he could play full songs. He said it made him feel alive again. That is the power of choosing to keep going. I know aging comes with challenges. I know there are days when the body feels stiff, when the memories are not as sharp, when the losses feel too heavy. But I also know that giving up on life does not make any of it better. In fact, it makes it worse. The people who keep going, who keep trying, who keep engaging, they are the ones who find joy in their later years. They are the ones who live with fewer regrets. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. Do not decide that your best days are behind you. Do not convince yourself that you are too old to matter. Do not make the mistake of thinking that slowing down completely is the answer. You still have time. You still have purpose. You still have life left to live. What you do with it is up to you. Now, let's clear some common questions. How can someone balance maintaining independence with accepting necessary help in later life? Maintaining independence while accepting necessary help in later life is a delicate balance. I have lived long enough to understand that pride and stubbornness can be both our greatest strengths and our worst enemies. When I was young, I believed that independence meant doing everything on my own. I thought asking for help was a sign of weakness, a surrender to aging. But life has a way of teaching us lessons that books and advice never can. The truth is, real independence is not about rejecting help. It is about knowing when to stand strong and when to lean on others so that life remains full and meaningful. I have watched too many old friends struggle against the inevitable, refusing to let anyone assist them even when they needed it most. Some insisted on driving long past the point when their eyesight and reflexes made it dangerous. Others refused to downsize from their large homes, exhausting themselves with maintenance they could no longer handle. And then there were those who refused medical care, determined to handle everything their way until their way left them in a hospital bed with no choices left at all. I understand the fear. Accepting help feels like giving up control. But what I have learned is that accepting help at the right moments actually allows you to keep control over the things that matter most. When I reached my 70s, I started to see small changes. I was still strong and capable, but I noticed that certain tasks took a little longer. Climbing ladders to change a light bulb felt just a bit riskier. Carrying heavy grocery bags up the stairs made my knees ache in a way they never did before. At first, I ignored it. Then, one day, a neighbor's son offered to help carry my groceries inside. My first instinct was to wave him off. But I caught myself. What was I proving by refusing? That I was still young? That I could do everything alone? The boy was kind. He wanted to help. And so, for the first time, I let someone else lighten my load. It did not make me weaker. It made my day easier. The key is to recognize the difference between what we can still do safely and what is best left to others. I have a friend named George. He was the most independent man I knew. When he turned 75, he insisted on shoveling his own driveway every winter. His children begged him to hire someone, but he refused. He saw it as an attack on his ability to take care of himself. Then, one morning, he slipped on the ice and broke his hip. That single moment of stubbornness cost him months of recovery and stole away much of the independence he had fought so hard to keep. I learned from his mistake. Now, when winter comes, I let my neighbor's teenager clear my driveway. I still go out and brush the snow off my car because that is something I enjoy. But the heavy lifting? I let someone younger take that burden. It is a small adjustment that allows me to stay independent in the long run. One of the hardest things to accept is that our bodies change before our minds do. I still feel like the same man I was in my 40s. But my body occasionally reminds me that time has passed. There was a day when I would climb on my roof to fix a leak without a second thought. Now, I have to accept that doing so could mean a fall that I might not recover from. The way I see it, accepting help for the things that put me at risk is not a loss of independence. It is a strategy to make sure I can continue doing the things I love for as long as possible. Pride can be a dangerous thing. There was a time when I resisted using a cane. I saw it as a symbol of weakness, something that marked me as old. But after a small stumble on an uneven sidewalk, I realized that swallowing my pride and using a cane when I needed it was a far better option than falling and breaking something. And you know what? Once I embraced it, I discovered that a good cane can be stylish. It became part of my look, a tool that allowed me to walk longer distances with confidence. That is what people forget. The right kind of help does not take away independence. It extends it. Maintaining independence is also about making decisions before others have to make them for you. I have seen too many people ignore warning signs until a crisis forces them into a situation they never wanted. A good friend of mine, Margaret, refused to talk about moving out of her big house even though it was becoming too much for her. She waited until a bad fall made the decision for her. Suddenly, she was not choosing where to live. Her children were. That is the kind of situation I have worked hard to avoid. When I noticed that my house was becoming more of a burden than a home, I made the choice to move to a smaller place on my own terms. I chose where I wanted to live. I set up my new space exactly how I liked it. Because I made the decision before it was forced upon me, I stayed in control of my life. There is an art to accepting help without losing yourself. It is about setting boundaries. I do not let others make decisions for me, but I do let them assist me when I know it is the smart thing to do. I drive myself to most places, but if I am going somewhere far or at night, I let my daughter take the wheel. I handle my own finances, but I let my son help me navigate online banking because he understands the technology better than I do. These are not weaknesses. These are adaptations. And adaptation is how we survive. The hardest part is not accepting help. It is changing how we see it. Too many of us think of it as an admission that we are less than we used to be. But I see it differently now. I see it as a way to keep living fully, to keep doing the things that make life worth living. A man who refuses all help is a man who will eventually find himself stuck, unable to move forward. But a man who knows when to accept a helping hand is a man who can keep walking his own path, just with a little more stability. There is no shame in getting older. It is a privilege denied to many. And there is no shame in letting others help us along the way. The trick is to be wise enough to know when to accept help and strong enough to keep making our own choices. Independence is not about doing everything alone. It is about staying in control of your own life while allowing others to support you in ways that keep you moving forward. And that, my friend, is the secret to aging well. What is the most powerful mindset shift people over 70 can adopt to ensure they make the best choices? The most powerful mindset shift that people over 70 can adopt to ensure they make the best choices is to stop seeing aging as a slow decline and start seeing it as a time of refinement. Life does not shrink with age. It changes. And those who embrace that change with an open mind and a flexible spirit are the ones who live the longest and the happiest. I have seen too many people waste their later years fearing what they might lose instead of celebrating what they still have. The best decision I ever made was to let go of that fear and shift my focus toward what is still possible. When I was younger, I thought getting older meant you had to give up pieces of yourself bit by bit until there was nothing left but memories and regrets. That is what society teaches us. The world whispers that after 70, our best days are behind us. But let me tell you something. That is only true if you believe it. The biggest mistake people make after 70 is thinking that their choices no longer matter, that they are just coasting toward the end. But I have learned that every single choice still shapes our future. The question is, do we make choices out of fear, or do we make them out of wisdom? That is where the mindset shift comes in. I remember the moment this truth hit me. I was sitting on my porch, watching the sun go down, and I caught myself thinking about all the things I used to do that I no longer could. I used to run upstairs without thinking. I used to lift heavy things without feeling it the next day. I used to be able to stay up late without paying for it in the morning. And for a moment, I felt that weight of loss, that sadness that creeps up on so many of us as we age. But then another thought came. What if I stopped counting what I lost and started counting what I had gained? What if I measured my life not by what I used to do, but by what I could still do? What if I made choices not out of a desire to hold on to the past, but out of a determination to shape my future? That moment changed everything. I decided then and there that I would not waste my time mourning the past. I would focus on the present and the future. I started making choices differently. Instead of saying, "I cannot do that anymore," I started saying, "How can I do this in a new way?" I might not run up the stairs anymore, but I can still walk up them with strength. I might not lift the heaviest things, but I can still stay active and keep my muscles working. I might not be able to stay up all night, but I can still wake up early and make the most of my day. I also learned that wisdom is the great advantage of age, and it should guide every decision we make. When I was young, I made choices based on impulse. I worried about what others thought. I chased after things that, in the end, did not matter. But after 70, I have the clarity to see what is truly important. I choose relationships over pride. I choose health over habit. I choose peace over proving something. This is not giving up. This is getting smarter. One of the biggest shifts I had to make was learning to let go of control over things that were never really mine to control in the first place. I used to think that if I just tried hard enough, I could keep everything the way it was. I could keep my children from making mistakes. I could hold on to my youth by resisting change. I could keep my friends from leaving this world by refusing to accept the inevitable. But life does not work that way. And once I accepted that, I started making better choices. I started spending more time enjoying my loved ones instead of trying to manage them. I started focusing on what I could control, my attitude, my health, my choices, rather than fighting against the things I could not. Another important shift was realizing that aging is not about less. It is about more. More time to think. More time to appreciate the small things. More time to love. But only if we choose to see it that way. I know people my age who have closed themselves off to new experiences because they think their time for learning and growing is over. That is nonsense. The best choices we make in our 70s and beyond are the ones that keep us engaged with the world. I took up painting last year, something I never had time for when I was younger. I started reading books about history, not because I had to, but because I finally could. I made new friends, not because I needed to replace the old ones, but because there are always more stories to hear, more laughter to share. The mind is the most powerful tool we have, and after 70, it becomes more important than ever to keep it sharp. I choose to challenge myself. I choose to stay curious. I choose to keep learning. That is a decision. That is a mindset shift. And it is one that makes all the difference. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. I have met too many people in their final years who look back and wish they had lived differently. They wish they had taken more chances. They wish they had said "I love you" more often. They wish they had let go of old grudges and reached out to people they had lost touch with. I do not want to be one of those people. That is why I make choices now that I know my future self will thank me for. I forgive quickly. I tell people what they mean to me. I take care of my body not just to live longer, but to live better. There is a freedom that comes with this mindset shift. It frees you from fear. It frees you from regret. It frees you from the pressure to be anything other than who you are in this moment. Every day I wake up, I remind myself that I still have choices. I still have power. I still have a life to live. And as long as I am here, I am going to make the most of it. So if you ask me what the most powerful mindset shift is for people over 70, I will tell you this. Stop looking at life as something that is slipping away. Start looking at it as something that is still unfolding. Make choices that honor where you are now, not where you used to be. Choose growth over stagnation. Choose joy over fear. Choose to see yourself not as someone fading, but as someone refining. That, my friend, is how you ensure that every choice you make leads you toward a life worth living. How can people in their 70s turn past regrets into wisdom for a fulfilling future? Regret is a strange thing. It sits in the back of the mind, quiet for years, and then suddenly it rises, whispering, reminding, pulling you into the past. I have spent my share of nights staring at the ceiling, replaying old mistakes, wishing I had done things differently. I have thought about words I should have said, opportunities one should have taken, relationships I should have fought harder for. I used to believe regret was a weight that could never be lifted, that it was just something a person had to carry. But I was wrong. Regret, when handled wisely, can be turned into something far more valuable. It can be turned into wisdom. It can be turned into fuel for a future that is still ours to shape. I remember a time when I let pride get in the way of an important friendship. I had a falling out with a close friend over something so small that, looking back, I cannot even remember the details. What I do remember is that we stopped talking. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And then one day, I heard that he had passed away. Just like that, the door was closed forever. There was no way to go back, no way to fix it, no way to say the words that should have been said. The regret sat heavy in my chest. For a long time, I let it eat at me. I told myself over and over that I had been foolish, that I had wasted something valuable. But what good does that do? What good is regret if all it does is chain you to a past you can no longer change? That was when I realized something. Regret is not the enemy. The real enemy is allowing it to paralyze you. The mistake had been made, but the lesson was still mine to carry forward. So I asked myself, how do I make sure this does not happen again? How do I take this pain and use it to make better choices? That was the shift. I started reaching out more. I started choosing forgiveness over stubbornness. I started making sure that if someone meant something to me, they knew it. That single regret, that one loss, became a turning point. And because of that, I have repaired old friendships. I have mended broken ties with family. I have spoken words that, had I let regret harden me instead of teach me, would have gone unsaid. Regret teaches us what we value most. If we regret not spending enough time with our loved ones, it is because those relationships truly mattered to us. If we regret not pursuing a dream, it is because that dream was important. If we regret the way we treated someone, it is because we know in our hearts that we could have done better. The mistake is not in having regrets. The mistake is in ignoring what they are trying to tell us. One of the hardest regrets to face is the time we feel we have wasted. I have known people who reach their 70s and believe it is too late. They look back at the years gone by, at the roads not taken, and they convince themselves that the best part of life is over. That is a lie. Time wasted in the past does not mean time must be wasted in the future. A man who wasted decades not pursuing his passion can still pick up a brush and start painting today. A woman who regrets never traveling can still book a flight and see the world. A person who was always too afraid to say I love you can still say it now. There's always time to do something meaningful, no matter how many years have passed. The key is to stop looking at life as a series of doors that have closed and start seeing it as a road that is still stretching ahead. I have learned that every day is a chance to make a different choice. The past may be written, but the future is still in our hands. I once met a man who spent his entire career working a job he hated. He carried that regret with him, feeling as if he had wasted his life. But in his 70s, he decided he would no longer let that regret define him. He started writing stories. He wrote about all the things he had seen, all the people he had met. He wrote about his regrets, and in doing so, he found joy. That is the lesson. Regret does not mean the story is over. It just means there is more to write. The hardest thing to do is forgive ourselves. It is easy to be our own worst critic, to look back at our mistakes and hold them against ourselves forever. but I have learned that wisdom is not about being perfect. It is about learning. I used to think that because I had made bad choices in the past, it meant I was somehow unworthy of happiness in the present. That is nonsense. We all stumble. We all fall. But the ones who live fully are the ones who learn how to get up and walk forward with new understanding. I have made peace with the fact that I cannot change the past. But I can choose how I live now. I can choose to let go of bitterness. I can choose to be kinder, both to myself and to others. I can choose to use every regret as a lesson rather than a punishment. That is the difference between those who grow wiser with age and those who grow bitter. The wise take their regrets and turn them into something useful. The bitter let their regrets define them. If there is one thing I would tell anyone struggling with regret, it is this. Do not let your past rob you of your future. Do not spend so much time looking over your shoulder that you miss what is right in front of you. If you regret something, ask yourself what you can do differently today. If you wish you had been more loving, start now. If you wish you had been braver, take a step today towards something that scares you. If you wish you had spent more time with the people who matter, pick up the phone and call them. Regret is only as heavy as we allow it to be. If we carry it like a burden, it will break us. But if we use it as a tool, as a guide, as a reminder of what truly matters, it can lead us to the most fulfilling years of our lives. I do not let regret keep me awake at night anymore. Instead, I let it push me to live better each day. And that, my friend, is how we turn the weight of the past into the wisdom of the future. If you liked today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with every video we release. And yes, don't forget to share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Every comment is special to us. Your feedback helps us improve further. We'll continue to meet you in every new video on this channel, so until next time, take care.